Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 194. I was white here, played e4, and my opponent played e5. So normal game so far, knight f3, and then now knight f6, the second choice here after knight c6. And this is known as Petrov's defense, or the Russian defense. And usually you just go ahead and take the pawn, although you can play other moves, d4, even knight c3 perhaps, but there's nothing wrong with this. This is an okay opening. It has a reputation as being somewhat drawish, but it can be played for both sides, of course. And the normal move here is d6, just kicking the knight back and then grabbing the pawn on e4. If you play knight takes e4, this is actually playable, although it's bad. It's just not a good move. You'll see why in the game, where my opponent plays probably the best line there is, and it's still not good. You might think it loses a piece, but it doesn't actually lose a piece. But everybody should know this is a bad opening. It's used as examples in children's classes, elementary school, after-school chess classes often use the Petrov's defense as an example because it's there's lots of things that can go wrong here as an example of how not to play. So queen e2, just attacking the knight, and then yeah, let's give a couple examples of how things can go wrong. If he defends with d5, you can kick the knight with d3. And if he makes the wrong move here, he's got to play queen e7. But if he retreats the knight, then you have knight c6 check. So that's a double attack. The queen is attacking the king, and the knight is attacking the queen. So that wins a queen. So you don't want to play like that. There's just lots of things that can go wrong. What's the other try here? Instead of d5, black could try d6. And then you can take on f7. And he takes back because you're forking the queen and the rook, so he's got to do something. And then you grab this, and you're just a pawn up, and he can't castle. So that's, again, a big advantage for white. So the best way to play is queen e7 here. And then you grab the knight. And the reason why you're not a piece up is because of this move d6. It looks like f6 is also a move. But the point is he can recapture the knight because of the pin. You can't move the knight away. The queen would hang. So best try is to defend the knight. Takes. And, oh, I didn't play that. Cancel that. I took with the queen. Looks like maybe d takes is a little better. And now he should probably take the queen himself. He played knight c6, and we're out of the opening book. But queen takes e5. You'll notice that it's not a full pawn advantage for white. It's a slight edge for white, but black has compensation. Usually he will get the pawn back. If white tries too hard to hold on to the pawn, then black gets a big lead in development, and white gets subject to a big attack. So usually you give back the pawn at some time, but in the meantime, you can use that extra pawn to make your opponent uncomfortable and develop your pieces. So that's the way you play it. In the game, my opponent went knight c6, and so I just went ahead and took the queens off. It's easier to play this way without the queens. Even now, you'll see it's not a full pawn advantage that black gets. He's got 3 pieces out, and I have none. So all I have is my extra pawn, but I'm about to develop. And it's just not a good, it's a type of gambit, I guess you can think of it that way. He gave up a pawn for quick development. It's just not a good gambit. But that doesn't mean you can play just anything with white. You have to be a little bit careful. But so far, get your pieces out, make threats. And if I may criticize my opponent a second time, the first thing he did wrong is play some known bad opening, because if your opponent knows what they're doing, you're not going to win. If you looked at the statistics, there are only 5 games in the database with that move, and all 5 of them were won by white. So against any competent player, black will lose. But then the second thing he did was he moved really fast and didn't pay any attention to the moves that I was going to make. So like here, this sets up a threat. Obviously, he's got a discovered attack on the king, but he left his pawn hanging, and I can still take it because it doesn't matter if he moves his bishop. I can just take his rook. So he has to move the rook, and now I retreat the bishop. And I don't make the best retreat here. I go to b3, and So my advantage just is not as good as it could be if I was making the best moves, but still enough to win. So he goes rook d to e8 and knight castle. But later on, actually, he gets back into the game. You'll see. So bishop to d3. Yeah, this is a nice move. So he was playing some good moves when he was stopping to think. But most of the time, he's just slamming these moves out without thinking. Bishop to d3, rook e1. Just making my position a little bit awkward here. I've got to move the knight. Still have to develop the bishop. And bishop to g5, attacking my knight. But exchanges are okay with me, and this is a situation where, once again, it may look a little bit dangerous that I have my rook here facing his rook, and he has the opportunity for discoveries. But I can take with check, and when he takes back, I can play my knight to f3 and defend this square. Because otherwise, I have a back rank problem where my back rank is weak. I could get mated if I didn't have this square covered. So you do need to think, even if your opponent is playing badly and you're just winning, you do need to think about these things and spot the threats and defend against them. And so that's why I was sort of annoyed by the way he was playing, because he was slamming out the moves really quick, which can interfere with me. In my case, I sometimes get distracted, start trying to play at the same pace as my opponent, and then I miss things. And the reason I'm playing at a slower pace is because, and the reason I'm playing at a slower time control, I'm not playing bullet chess here. I'm playing, 8 minutes and 4-second increments. It's to give me time to think so I can spot these things and don't just fall victim to simple mates in 1 or 2 or simple tactics like that. I want to be able to think a little bit during the game. Okay, so knight f3 is a good move because it defends against the checkmate threat, and now he has nothing better than to exchange off the bishop. And then he invades with his rook, also a good move. I don't want to move my king to f1 here and be discovered to subject to a discovered attack. The pawn on b2 can't really be defended, so he's going to get one of his pawns back. The engine suggestion here, I didn't play a good move here. The engine suggestion is rook d1, harassing his bishop. And in this particular position, it's actually safe for me to take the bishop here because, for example, if he were to play rook to b takes b2, I could go ahead and grab the bishop, because when he checks me here, threatening checkmate, this square here is defended by my bishop. So it takes a while to notice all these tactics, and I just played this next move too quickly myself, or I didn't stop to think to find that move. So because I knew this was kind of a crummy move, because it's giving up a pawn, and really there was no particular need to give up the center pawn at that point. And so he takes, and so after that he's actually back in the game. We're within the range of maybe the typical opening advantage for white. So you could consider this basically an even game at this point, which is a shame because he's been playing badly. He played a bad opening, he played too quickly, and yet somehow he's still in the game. So a little bit annoying. Okay, so I threatened the bishop now, and he brings his rook back to e2. And now I cannot take the bishop because of the checkmate threat. So fortunately I noticed that. I play f3, so I won't be getting checkmated. And now he retreats the bishop. And he probably should have gone to the square f5 there. He went to g6. If he'd gone to f5, it would guard against checks on this diagonal, which you'll see are a theme. I played bishop to d5, just trying to develop my bishop, and if he doesn't take here, I'm going to advance these pawns. But he played rook takes b2. So actually, before I play that, if you didn't see the game, why don't you try and imagine the position after rook takes b2? It's not even going to show up on the screen here because it's such a bad move. The engine won't even bother to evaluate it. But after rook takes b2, what is white's best move? Okay, if you want some time to think about it, pause the video and think. I'm going to give the answer away. So he did play rook takes b2. And I did play the best move, you see. Bishop e6 check is what I played. And the reason it's a good move is because it's made into check. And there's nowhere for the king to go. His only move, and then rook there is mate. So this is a really nice mating pattern. When the king is trying to escape, he's close to escaping, right? You think of back row mates when the king is on this square, because you realize just a rook here is going to mate him, but he's not there. He's on this square, and he's about to escape. So you can't check here directly. He's covering that square. But what you can do is use the bishop to drive him back one square with a check, and the rook is covering his escape, so he only has one move. And then the rook comes in with the checkmate. So a very common mating pattern, and one you should definitely have in your memory bank. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again later. Bye.